Hi everyone, my name is Joy, and today I'll be talking about a very controversial artwork called Mac Jesus that shows Ronald McDonald on a cross. And this artwork has created a huge star in 2019 and will try to give us an interesting way to look at how Jesus is portrayed in today's culture, which is very much aligned to Jesus Christ pop culture. Alright, so as you can see, this is the artwork, and this sculpture was made in 2015 by Finnish artist Jenny Leinonen, and it shows the McDonald's mascot Ronald McDonald crucified on a wooden cross, and it was displayed at the Haifa Museum of Art in Israel as part of a show called Sacred Goods that looked at connections between religion and consumer culture. This wasn't just like another provocative artwork, but it caused so much violent protest, political threats, and also made international headlines, which also try to tell us something important about religious symbols today. And we can look at the visual analysis. Looking at the artwork itself, we can see how the artist deliberately combined religious and corporate symbols. The statue keeps all the traditional elements of a crucifixion, the wooden cross, the outstretched arms, but replaces Jesus with Ronald McDonald, which quite creates a huge controversy. The bright red and yellow McDonald's colors are unmistakable, with the golden M logo right on the figure's chest, and the striped lips and clown face create a jarring contrast with what is normally a sacred image. This visual clash is very intentional and it was on purpose, and it also forces us to think about how it might have been uncomfortable similarities there could have been between religious devotion and like the brand loyalty in today's world. So, the primary intention of the artist is that, according to the museum, the main purpose of this artwork was to critique the collaboration between religious systems and consumer culture. Leinonen often examines how corporations have taken over nearly every aspect of our lives, including spiritual ones. And the secondary aims are like to highlight how companies like McDonald's have achieved almost godlike status in our society, and the golden arches are probably more globally recognized today than any religious symbol, because yes, everyone knows McDonald. And by using like the shock value, the artist makes viewers confront like uncomfortable questions like, have we ever replaced worship of God with worship of brands? Or has consumption been our new religion? Because overconsumption is a new religion, to be honest. The crucifixion Christianity's central image of sacrifice is turned upside down, with like the suffering savior replaced by a smiling corporate mascot. So yeah, the artist has a very hidden agenda and the purpose, and he was trying to portray it through this artwork. So when looking at this, what makes this artwork especially relevant for a discussion is like how it completely flips the traditional salvation story. Instead of Jesus sacrificing himself to save humanity from sin, like as we all know, we see a corporate mascot who saves us through consumption and fast food. And the artwork shows like how Jesus has become a cultural battleground where different groups project their own values and meanings. And we also live in a society where religious symbols are constantly repurposed in like advertising, entertainment, and social media, making them like a very contested territory. And what's also fascinating is how this single image created completely different reactions. And I'll continue it in the next slide because so many religious communities saw it as blasphemy. Art critics saw criticism of capitalism, and the artist himself later claimed it was a political statement about Israeli-Palestinian relations. And I also have an online article about it, and like what's fascinating is that how this single image created so much about Jesus lasting cultural power in like a very secular world like this image wouldn't cause so much intense responses, but we also live in a culture where shock value gets attention and religious imagery remains one of the few things that can still genuinely provoke reactions in an otherwise society. So the violent protests and political threats prove that Jesus still remains as one of the most powerful symbols, especially in our culture, in our religion, and even for many people who don't consider themselves religious. So we have a controversy for this artwork. So the controversy around Mac Jesus happened on like three different levels. and each showing something about how Jesus imagery works in today's culture. First, there was like a religious outrage. As we all know, it will happen. Arab Christians in Israel protested violently, with church leaders calling it an injury to the holy symbol of Christianity. Some protesters tried to even storm the museum to like remove the artwork by force. And secondly, there was political censorship. Israel's culture minister threatened to cut government funding from the museum, saying that it was a disrespect of religious symbols and cannot serve as an art of a cultural institution supported by state fund. And this shows how religious imagery often gets tangled up with politics and power. And most surprising was that the artist himself object this and say Lenin actually asked the museum to remove his work not for a religious reason, but in support of the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement for Palestinian rights. He said Israel overly uses culture as a form of propaganda, giving his own artwork a completely new political meaning. So this was a very controversial artwork, but also has different layer of controversy and meaning, in which I have learned a lot while researching about this artwork. My discussion question would be, what does the extreme reaction to this artwork actually tell us about the continued importance of Jesus imagery in our supposedly secular age? And so, yeah, this is my pop culture for today, and thank you for listening.